I wish I was in a land of cotton. Old times there are not.
African Americans were engaged in a long and multifaceted struggle for civil rights and equality well before the landmark Supreme Court decision in Brown v. Board of Education in 1954. Their efforts spanned decades and took various forms, including legal challenges, grassroots organizing, and activism. While not the first, the 1960 Greensboro sit-ins marked a turning point in the fight for racial equality and justice. We'll explore the circumstances that led to the sit-ins, the key individuals involved, the results they achieved, and the enduring legacy of this important event in the ongoing struggle for civil rights in the United States. Before discussing the sit-ins, though, it's crucial to understand the backdrop against which they unfolded. The United States experienced institutionalized racial segregation, particularly in the South, well past the middle of the 20th century. African Americans faced systemic discrimination in nearly every aspect of life, including education, employment, housing, and public accommodations. This environment of inequality and injustice created a groundswell of frustration and a desire for change. The specific catalyst for the Greensboro sit-ins was the segregated F.W. Woolworth's lunch counter. Sit-ins began on February 1, 1960, when 4 African American students from North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University sat down at the whites-only lunch counter of the Woolworth store and politely requested service. They were refused service because of their race. The students remained seated at the counter for over an hour, refusing to leave. The store manager eventually closed the store early. By the end of the week, there were over 300 students participating in the sit-ins, including white female students from the Women's College of the University of North Carolina. To help coordinate the protests, they organized the Student Executive Committee for Justice. The 4 students, Franklin McCain, Joseph McNeil, David Richmond, and Ezell Blair Jr., who was later known as Jibril Kazan, were inspired by the nonviolent protest techniques of Mahatma Gandhi, and their successes inspired the Freedom Rides, organized the following year. The protesters were well aware of the risks they were taking. They knew they could face violence and even arrest. Their determination to challenge segregation and injustice outweighed their fear of the consequences. Greensboro Police Chief David Kennedy refused to arrest them, saying that they had not broken any laws, although the 4 students were later arrested on charges of trespassing by Greensboro's Public Safety Director, R.D.L. Claiborne. They were found guilty and fined $25 each, but they refused to pay the fine. The North Carolina Supreme Court dismissed the case, ruling that the students had not trespassed. The court also ruled that the segregation policy of the Woolworth lunch counter was illegal, which was a major victory for the civil rights movement. It showed that the courts could be used to challenge segregation, and it inspired other students to participate in sit-ins and other forms of nonviolent protest. The sit-ins continued for 186 days, during which the students were subjected to verbal abuse, threats of violence, and even physical assault from segregationists. They remained nonviolent and committed to their cause. F.W. Woolworth eventually relented and quietly integrated its lunch counter on July 25th. The first to be served were 4 African-American Woolworth's kitchen and counter workers, Geneva Tisdale, Susie Morrison, Anitha Jones, and Charles Best, who removed their aprons, sat down, and ate. News of the successful protest quickly spread, inspiring young people in over 100 other cities, especially in the South, to take similar actions, using the students' nonviolent methods as a model. Activists participated in nonviolent demonstrations at segregated lunch counters, restaurants, and other public establishments, challenging Jim Crow laws and discriminatory practices. The movement transcended racial boundaries, showing that the fight for civil rights was not limited to any single group. The sit-ins led to the creation of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee in April 1960 at Shaw University in Raleigh, demonstrating the potency of grassroots activism and empowering a new generation with growing confidence in their leadership abilities. The landmark Civil Rights Act of 1964, which outlawed discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, was a response to the growing civil rights movement and the public outcry against segregation. Today, the Greensboro sit-ins are remembered as a symbol of the power of nonviolent protest and the tireless pursuit of justice. They remind us of the progress made in the fight for civil rights, while also highlighting the ongoing struggle for equality. The legacy of the sit-ins continues to inspire individuals and communities to work towards a more just and equitable society, serving as a testament to the enduring spirit of activism and resilience in the face of adversity. The Greensboro sit-ins are commemorated in several ways. The Woolworth store is now the International Civil Rights Center and Museum, which tells the story of the sit-ins and their impact on the civil rights movement. There is a statue of the Greensboro Four in downtown Greensboro, which is a reminder of the courage and determination of the four students who helped to change the course of history. The Greensboro Historical Museum has a permanent exhibit, and the Greensboro Public Library has a collection of documents and photographs related to the event. There are also books and films including Civilities and Civil Rights Greensboro, North Carolina, and The Black Struggle for Freedom by William Henry Chafe, Lunch at the 5 and 10 The Greensboro Sit-ins, A Contemporary History by Miles Wolff, the illustrated book Sit-In, How Four Friends Stood Up by Sitting Down by Andrea Davis Pinkney, author, and Brian Pinkney, artist, and the 2003 documentary, February 1, The Story of the Greensboro Four. The sit-ins marker is located at the intersection of North Elm Street and West Friendly Avenue in downtown Greensboro. The International Civil Rights Center and Museum is about a 3-minute walk along South Elm Street.